Welcome to episode 21 of Phoenix Talks with Brenda Wolf, myself, and my lovely co-host Diane R.
Hello.
Yassi. And this week, well, let me catch everybody up in case this is the first time you're tuning in. Let me let you know how this works. Every single week, we get on air with a single topic. We may not know what that topic is until the day before or a couple hours before. But one thing that we don't do is prepare. We don't have a conversation about it. We don't even talk about what we're going to do, except maybe a couple things here and there until we go live. So what you see is completely 100% organic, and it's literally almost like a telephone conversation that's directed at you, the viewers. So this week we are going to be talking about abandonment. And I want to paint a picture really quick about something that probably many think of when they think of abandonment or what that might mean. Okay. The image that pops into my head when I think about abandonment is a young child who got left behind, whether it be by their parents, whether it be by school kids. They just kind of got left there, standing left wherever with, where is everybody? But that's the easy part of what that means, of what abandonment is really about.
Right.
And there's so much more to it. And the one thing that we do have is a description.
Yes. There really is so much more to it. There's a lot of ums and legs to it, because abandonment is not just someone leaving you. I'm going to read a meme that I posted on my page. I forgot where I got it from. I'm sorry. Abandonment is not just someone leaving you. It's also someone not meeting your needs, someone not respecting your boundaries, someone not keeping their word, someone not reciprocating the love you give, and someone not valuing your presence. Abandonment is not just about those who fail to show up for you physically, but also those who fail to show up for you mentally and emotionally. That was such a great description of it.
It really was.
I had to share.
Yes. It's a fantastic description.
Right. Now, this conversation came about because I had asked somebody, because, one of us intuits, so we come up in unique ways, the topic.
Always.
I had asked someone who was on a healing journey what they struggled with the most, and it was abandonment. They're always going to leave. How do I know they're just not going to up and leave like everyone else?
Right.
That was it. So we have a lot to cover in this area. So let's go back to that little child that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And the damage that does.
and the triggers it creates. And so many times I'm no stranger to this feeling of abandonment, and my cat is crying in the background, agreeing. Which so many times it's like, where did everybody go? I can feel absolutely alone in a crowded room.
Right.
And it's not so much isolation as, well, okay, if I go and talk to that person, are they going to like me? Are they going to lead like everybody else?
Right.
Once they get to know who I actually am, is it going to scare them off? Because, I've talked about recently in other live chats where, lost my train of thought. Choo went away. Okay. Apparently it wasn't important yet.
Okay, we'll move on to the next part.
We'll move on to the next part, and if it decides to come back to the station, I'll come back to it.
Yes, the organic conversation includes our full display of ADHD.
Yeah, and also the fact that thoughts come and go, and if you don't grab onto that thought, well, another one's right behind it.
Yes. Exactly.
as the cat groans again.
Exactly. Oh, so really with abandonment, we all struggle with that. I think all of us have been abandoned, whether it be mentally, emotionally, or physically. And most of us have been abandoned in some form in childhood. And before you go, well, I wasn't. Da, 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 da. Okay, reflect. Were all of your needs 100% met all the time? Probably not. So you did experience some level of the spectrum of that sense of abandonment. No one's there for me. I feel alone. I feel isolated. I feel like no one wants me around.
And
It's
a lot of
related
times when
to
somebody has that reaction, it is reflective of the fact that they just got triggered because they do understand that feeling, but they want to throw that wall up saying, no, I've never felt that before. Oh, okay. I'm calling the bull train on that one.
so we're going to bring to your awareness what it looks like so that you could include yourself in that.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Like, oh, okay, here's the mirror.
Exactly. Exactly. So, we all experience abandonment on different levels and we all feel it on different levels. Let's talk about the whole, well, how do I know they're not going to leave me like everyone else does?
Exactly.
Okay. Well,
And
my
I did.
first
The train came
question.
back. The train came
Oh,
back, and
good.
it's perfect timing because so many times I will be around people, and I talked about this yesterday, literally yesterday, when I was talking about authentic loneliness, where if I'm around a group of people and I'm acting a certain way and they like that, but then all of a sudden I realize that that's not who I really want to be or who I really am. I'm not being authentic to myself. And I start changing my presentation to be more authentic to who I really am. And all of a sudden they're like, could you go back to who you used to be? Because we liked him better. This falls into why people have that abandonment feeling
Mhm.
because the being afraid to be
Right.
themselves, to be true to other people
Right.
in the at the risk of losing them.
So I will add for the folks that when you abandon yourself and betray yourself to make others satisfied, you're abandoning your authenticity. So the abandonment starts with you, not when you're a child, but what the residual effects of that are self-abandonment in adulthood and in other times in your life. So the self-abandonment piece is the result of that feeling abandoned when you were little. You basically decided to tell yourself, oh, I guess I got to abandon myself in order to be comfortable for other people.
Right.
So,
But here's the crazy thing. And this may derail just a little bit. It might drop to a different branch on a different topic. But when it comes to, and I posted about this, because when we continue to try and go back to that childhood feeling that created whatever trauma that we're trying to get through, in insert, abandonment, validation, whatever the case is, whatever the topic is that you're trying to get around. If you're trying to go back to that little child and figure out why, you're only remembering half of the story. But the good news on all of this is when you are trying to address that little child inside that's been hurt, there was a version of that child before it was hurt, before he or she knew pain, before he or she knew abandonment and felt left behind. They didn't care. And that little one is still inside, but scared to come out. That's
right,
who you want. That's where you want to really dig into is nurturing that innocence
right.
of safety.
And remind yourself too that, we've talked about this on previous episodes that everyone's limited to their own knowledge and experience and their whatever they were trained and programmed to believe. So our age group and generation, our parents learned a completely different way of parenting.
Yes.
So the abandonment issues in our generation, so a little special.
Little different. A little different. I mean, there's there's a huge difference between getting left behind and feeling like nobody really cares when you and I were growing up.
Right.
Without social media. To
Right.
where now people are getting left behind on their phone. They're getting abandoned on their phone, ghosted.
Mm-hmm. Right.
People don't talk to them.
Let's talk about why our needs are not being met, and in physically, mentally, or emotionally, and how, in what ways we are continuously abandoning ourselves via disrespecting ourselves, betraying ourselves, not being authentic, people pleasing, over accommodating, self sacrifice. The list goes on and on. We've talked about them every week because they fall on every branch that we've talked about.
Absolutely.
And we're going to fall on this one too. Because ultimately, you need to become solid within yourself. And that's where that work that we talk about comes in. That self-love work comes in. Because if you're abandoning yourself to please others and to be likable and to out of fear that they're going to leave you, you're aligning yourself with the individuals that are not compatible with you. You're forcing something that isn't in alignment with you.
Right.
So the cure for this is align yourself only with things that are meant for you. And if they don't, if you see after a period of time they don't really align with you, it's not necessarily that, they're going to leave you, they're abandoning me. No. Just acceptance. This isn't really in alignment with me, and that's okay. It's
right.
okay.
And, abandoning yourself, if you think of it as when something or someone is abandoned, they lose part of something. They lose a connection. So when you are trying to maintain connections that are on a lower frequency, that are on a lower vibration, that are not who you are, when you are trying to maintain those connections so that there isn't loss, you're abandoning your potential and your probability of being you. You are leaving you behind.
Right. That is where you're examining, why are you leaving yourself behind? If you experienced abandonment on any level of the spectrum, in any form, as a child, it carries with you into adulthood, looking like self-abandoned in every aspect. So it's up to you to recognize, am I betraying myself? Am I abandoning myself? Am I neglecting my own needs? Am I, disrespecting my boundaries? All of this is abandoning yourself.
I just said this. I just did this. And oh God, I should have, would have, could have. If this describes anything that you have done recently, and you have that shoulda, woulda, coulda afterwards, because that's not who you are, and you're angry at yourself, find yourself again.
Yes. That's if you're angry at yourself and not feeling right about something, that's your indicator to try something different without judging yourself over it.
Right.
Don't judge that recognition that this is really not okay. Don't judge it, because that's also self-abandonment. Instead, okay, how can I fulfill my needs? What are my needs? What do I feel like I'm not getting that I need to get? And how do I give that to myself? In what way do I need to think and speak and act differently in order to be there for myself, so that I show others to show up for me consistently?
Exactly. And a thought just came to mind thinking about, okay, you take the ment off of abandonment and you have abandon. And what's really crazy is that when you think about doing things with abandon, you don't care.
Kind of changes it, doesn't it?
I just colored without abandon or with abandon. I just sang with abandon. I just hiked with abandon. Okay. You absolutely just lost care of negative and it brought you joy.
Yes.
But when you dive into abandonment, well, perhaps they should, the English language, maybe that it should change a little and add an A after the E, because I meant to do it differently.
Yeah. Yes. So get yourself.
How's that for a Brindle quote?
I love it. And I love the wording, the wordplay. Get yourself to that place by examining yourself, by getting to know yourself, by respecting yourself, by sharing yourself with individuals who are in alignment with what authentically resonates with you. Because the abandonment piece in adulthood really comes from that space of the self-abandonment, I'm going to say, of you carrying on and continuing the same thought patterns and behaviors that are not healthy or in alignment with you. You
Right.
really have to make that decision. Toss that stuff in the trash, set it on fire. I like to say it that way because it's a visual. Set the dumpster on fire.
I mean,
Yes.
there's career abandonment because you try something and
Right.
it's too difficult.
Mm-hmm. On that note, that's the perspective to shift there is that you have to go from 0 to perfect. No, it could take 10,000 failures to get it right. No major successful person got it right on the first try.
Nope.
Everyone had to build their foundation from scratch. So you can't discourage yourself immediately and abandon yourself just because it didn't go well the first time or
Right.
second or third.
Right.
Okay, next one.
Then you have the abandonment of friendships.
Mm-hmm. On that, you
And
grew
the
apart.
big one. It's so big because, of course there's the part of friendship where life changes.
Mm-hmm.
And you roll with the punches when it comes to that. People fall in love with somebody else. They get married. They have kids or don't, but then they have their careers. They have all of these things that are in the way. That natural.
Right. Right.
If
But
you have a good
understand.
relationship with somebody and a good friendship with somebody, and all of that happens, you help them on their journey. You were a blessed part of their journey. But if you have to chase people, if you have to beg for their attention, and that can take many forms too, where you have to do something extraordinary. Hi, I'm over here. Or the feeling of dismissal because some of the things that you say. And another lesson. When we read text messages, unless we have talked to somebody enough, we don't know intonation. We can't imagine it well enough. So we can only perceive what looks like, sounds like.
Right.
And if something that somebody completely innocently types something to you that looks like, sounds like, what reaction are you going to have? What feeling are you going to have? Today, we're talking about abandonment. So you're going to feel left out, pushed away, walked over. How do you resolve that? Communicate.
Right. And don't force what isn't aligned with you. Again, It's you're not authentically aligned with something that is sustainable and maintainable. You can grow out of friendships, you can grow out of any level of relationship in any form.
Yep.
And that's okay. And that you can't take it as a rejection or personally or that kind of thing. And no matter how the dynamic is, don't abandon your needs for someone else. And don't disrespect who you are as a person and compromise your integrity to satisfy someone else's needs, to keep that there, to keep that, maintain that relationship. It's not necessary. It's sometimes you have to abandon a situation to save yourself.
Yes.
That's a different form of abandonment.
Notice that there wasn't any ment on there. There wasn't any ment because you meant to leave, okay?
Yes, I like that.
The
yes.
Abandon a bad situation, leaving it behind. This is okay.
Right. That's for your own good.
Yes. And speaking of own good, all of the people pleasers out there watching this.
Yes.
This one's for you.
And full disclosure, we've all had both sides of the coin with regards to abandonment. I personally have ghosted individuals, and part of that is ADHD. Object impermanence is real, including with people. I'm sorry. However, that being said, those that are really truly aligned with who I am are the ones who will always find and seek me and be there for me if I do need somebody. So,
and when it comes to people with ADHD that have personal impermanence, I would warrant to guess that if somebody is aligned with you and resonates with you, supports you, respects you, anchors, there's the key. Somebody that anchors you. If you are somebody who suffers ADHD and you know somebody and they anchor you, all of the other slots are filled. All of the little check marks on that checklist are checked off, because you know that you won't suffer that abandonment, you won't cause that abandonment.
Right, exactly. And I feel like what you just said there is important for people who have that fear of abandonment to affirm themselves of is, I am not the cause of abandonment. I am responsible for not abandoning myself and for choosing individuals in my life who are aligned with who I am. That's your responsibility not to abandon yourself, but you're not the cause of the abandonment.
Right.
That's a great point that you made, and I hope that you add that to your affirmations list and prove it to yourself by reflecting on those experiences that revolve around abandonment and understanding what ways you were so not aligned with one another and could not rely on them anyway, and now you understand that.
Right.
And if you had all that, it was conditional, because if they're gone, it had conditions that still don't resonate with you.
Right.
So don't abandon yourself.
Why, but I'm guided to suggest, and I hope that I have the acronym correct. And I know what it's for, I know how it's used, but I just learned it recently. But I am guided to suggest to people who are having abandonment issues, but don't know exactly where it stems from, but want the memories actually triggered, because there's nothing wrong with that. If that works for you, please do what works for you. EMDR.
Yes, EMDR is great.
Because it will literally help to stimulate things that you forgot about. But then you start to put the pieces together as things come in, and you're like, oh,
yes,
That's what that is. That's
Yeah.
where it came from. That's why I have this feeling. And it's not just about abandonment.
Yes,
So check that out. I do know that it is very helpful for people. I
it
I
is.
track my own triggers. So
Another useful modality is energy work, energy healing, whether it be in the form of a type of Reiki or just general energy work. That also helps surface those issues that need to come to your attention to be loved a little extra and to be understood by you so that you can think and act differently going forward.
yes, I will put the disclaimer out there that sometimes that kind of energy work can be a little emotionally uncomfortable.
It's definitely emotionally uncomfortable, but that's the whole point. All
Yeah.
of this is emotionally uncomfortable. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not going to know what needs to be fixed. The discomfort is to give you that understanding of this is a problem. How do I make it right? And sometimes
Jump
you're
in, jump
uncomfortable
into that discomfort with abandon.
at yes, yes, yes. And
But
ye
I want
shall
to,
be.
I want to take a couple steps back to those people pleasers because another thing that was on my heart to get out to these people is if you have spent years, but all of that other else, everything else prior to what I'm about to say needed to be said. But if you've been spending years being a people pleaser so that you don't lose people, I want you to look at your health.
Mhm.
How's your digestion? How's your sleep patterns? How's your headaches? How's your appetite? How's your anxiety?
Mhm.
Because when you dive into with abandon, pleasing others to keep them in your life, you are abandoning your own well being.
Right. So, in essence, a fear of abandonment as an adult will result in self abandonment.
Yep.
So, if we eliminate self abandonment by doing the work, then you'll go back to every episode and watch them so you can learn the work, the inner work, the self love work, and how to process triggers and emotions and emotionally regulate yourself. That's the kind of stuff that needs to happen in order for you to be able to understand who you are and align yourself with individuals who are interested in maintaining that connection with you because there is that compatibility and alignment. It really boils down to you learning how not to abandon yourself and in what ways you are abandoning yourself so that you can shift out of that. You got to learn what that is. Sometimes we need to heal all this stuff so that we can heal from the discomfort of the joy of receiving and
Right.
feeling loved.
And, it might come across that we're shooting all over you. But know this when it comes to emotional and mental wellness, first of all, you're born in perfect health with it. That's how you started, period.
Perfect.
Every human on the planet in all of history and all of the future is born with complete and total mental wellness. But if it got so dirty that you don't know what to do, the want to improve, to get better, to find the authentic you has to be there. We could should on you all day long about how to fix this. In our opinions, they may or may not work for you. But the want has to be there.
Yes. We have free will. We get to choose. You and I have already chosen to heal those aspects of ourselves, and we're still in the thick of our healing journey, as most people who are on this journey are, because we don't leave. We stay here and we love this ride.
Most of the time.
Yes. Even the ugly parts. It's all good.
Well, yesterday I brought up that, the universe life is going to bring you good and bad, especially when you're on your healing journey to your authentic self.
Right.
And sometimes the bad is the best.
Right.
Because sometimes the bad is an actual mirror image of who you used to be so that you can see it with your own eyes, since you cannot see yourself with your own eyes.
Right.
You can look in the mirror, but that's still not the same.
Right. So when you're trying to discover in what ways that you do abandon yourself, when you're doing that self-analysis work, make sure you remember to reflect lovingly toward yourself with the intention of seeking what thought patterns and behaviors you may need to shift into something else, and in what ways you were not being authentic in those moments so that you could consciously remain and maintain your authenticity going forward. It's just so you can learn about yourself. You're here to learn and understand yourself, not to be understood and for other people to learn about you. It's your lessons to learn.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey of lessons doesn't end until it does.
No, so we can't abandon ourselves, because then we'll never move forward on this journey. If we abandon ourselves, that we stop this journey completely.
And I do have some bad news for people. I really do. And it kind of hurts to say this, but everything that you work on, everything that you recognize, everything that you understand, everything that you start to move to higher levels to, you'll still get triggered. You'll still have those things that you have worked through present in your life somewhere along the way, just to test you, because the universe has a sense of humor.
And see, that I don't find that to be bad news. I like triggers. Triggers are my point, my arrow. Look here. This is what needs attention. And I say, yay, this hurts like hell. Like, yay. I'm good.
And how many to replay are going like, oh my God, she's so crazy. But no, it's serious. I mean, yeah, that was melodramatic, over the top with, oh my God, yes, please show me the trigger so that I know what I'm doing. Yes. And I know what I'm getting through, and I know that I've gotten through. Yes, please show me. Yes, melodramatic, over the top, but you know what? It's true. Once you can get to that point with being able to see what's going on in your life and what's being thrown at you, because it's gonna happen.
Yes.
Shit happens.
Yes.
You can't get away from it.
Yes. Don't abandon your
do with it.
Don't abandon your triggers. No. Nurture them. Give them attention. That's where your needs are not being met. It's telling you what needs need to be fulfilled.
Yes. I think they should hear that meme again if you bring it up.
Let me do it. Oh, maybe I can find, I don't know if I can find it on the phone real quick. Let's see.
Oh, we lost her.
I might have disappeared. I'm sorry. It's okay. It's worth a read. Here we go. Ready?
I'm ready.
Abandonment is not just someone leaving you. It's also someone not meeting your needs, someone not respecting your boundaries, someone not keeping their word, someone not reciprocating the love you give, and someone not validating your presence. Abandonment is not just about those who fail to show up for you physically, but also those who fail to show up mentally and emotionally. That includes you.
Yes.
You are also someone.
Yes. Who has thought?
It begins and ends with you.
Yes. And you have these thoughts that come through. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks. Everybody has thoughts. Everybody has a consciousness.
Yes.
Everyone has a mind.
I have homework. I have homework for folks. because I think like a lot of people like to find out what their attachment styles are and whatever.
Okay.
When you go find your attachment style, understand how your abandonment issues play into the attachment style, and it'll help you heal through that kind of attachment style. If
And
it's
maybe
not
you
a
can shoot me, maybe after we get done, you can shoot me a link and I can include it into the video description. So that,
attachment styles,
yes, so that
I'm just going to do a general Google search.
that works too.
Yes. Done.
I will save my fingers and I will abandon that.
Yes. But your abandonment issues show up in your unhealthy attachment style.
Right.
Yes. So just something to throw at you to examine.
But the most important thing for me when it comes to abandonment is too many people feel alone in their own skin. If that is how you feel, start asking yourself why. There have been so many tools and hints that we've given in the last 21 weeks.
Right.
Of what might be missing, what might have been lost.
Right.
It might not have even happened at childhood. It might have happened as an adult who put everything they had with abandon into someone else or something else, and all of a sudden, gone.
Right.
And then everything after that, that looks like, sounds like, smells like, feels like, walls are up. And you start abandoning yourself, start people pleasing, start feeling like you have to prove yourself in order for that not to be taken away again.
Except you were already abandoning yourself. Now you're just doubling down on it.
Yeah. How's that working for you?
Not good. Okay, so to that piece of you feeling alone, a lot of times people just isolate themselves because they've had the inconsistency and they've had the abandonment issue consistently. Yeah. Because they're not recognizing that they're not fulfilling their needs, and they're choosing individuals who continuously cannot meet their needs. Don't choose those people anymore, but you're not going to know who those people are unless you find out what your needs are. So when you ask yourself those questions, the first question, like Micah said before, what are my needs? What needs are not being met?
Yep. I got 2 words that most people who suffer abandonment use. Never, always.
So true. Yes.
It never works out. It always ends this way.
Uh-huh.
No one or ever.
Well, sure, if you choose.
Right.
If you continue to choose, sure. You have a choice, though. Allow yourself permission to make that choice. You don't buy a car without doing the research. So why not do the research on who you are so that you know where your energy is supposed to be paid into?
Right. Because forever doesn't exist on either end of the spectrum. It does not exist in human form.
Right.
I will love you forever.
Right.
And your body will die. Sorry.
Right. Right.
But never say never, because never always ends.
So when you have that mindset of never and always, the extremes are very self-sabotaging because it's not rooted in this reality and in this moment. So ask yourself, am I being present in this moment with myself? Am I being realistic in this moment with myself?
Right.
The realistic part is what you need to bring yourself back to and root yourself into this present moment so that you can be fully aware of realistically what your needs are, not with the programmed belief of what you're supposed to have and need,
Yeah.
what you actually need. Don't confuse it with what you were told you should have or get or be.
Especially be. Because
Yep.
who you should be is you.
Right. Right.
That's who you should be.
Right. Right.
With abandon.
We all have been on both sides of the coin. We've all done the abandoning. We've all been abandoned. We've all experienced it on some level of the spectrum in some way. The responsibility falls to us to now decide to do something different, think differently, act differently. It all comes back to the self.
Yes.
Right. So what we learned on this episode is don't abandon yourself.
No. And chin up. It's not that bad. It will feel like it for a while. The length of that depends on remembering this is just a thought. It really is. How you feel in any situation, whether it be I feel like I've been abandoned, like I've lost part of myself, like people don't want to be around me. These are thoughts based on your perceptions of what you see around you.
Right.
It's based on we can't get away from the term programming that you have done to your subconscious over the years from childhood, from your experiences. These are all collected thoughts into your consciousness that your mind processes and shoves in your face and into what is coming across. Guess what? Congratulations, you're human.
But you can download new software. How do you want to feel? What thought do you want to assign to that emotion? And how does that thought affect your outer experience and your physical body? Because we're creating the dis-ease in our bodies based on the programming that's aligned with lower vibrational emotions, and we're not aligning ourselves with the higher vibrational emotions that we want to feel and the actions and thoughts that are going to keep us there. So that's the shift, that's the challenge. And again, it's getting to know yourself, watch every episode so that you can go back and learn exactly how to process your triggers, process your emotions, learn about yourself. We've been through all of that. And that's really what is needed in order to get out of this.
Right. And, they're having fun with me today. My guides, they're having a blast because, my favorite example of thought, which, a lot of times people are like, would you find a new example? But purple giraffe on roller skates. Okay. Now, I can't say that without thinking about a purple giraffe on roller skates, or at least part of that image. But what if it's a pink flamingo, flying through the air? So, okay, now you have another thought, climbing up and down the stairs while carrying a heavy bucket in one hand and balancing another on your head. All of these different thoughts I could throw out over and over and over again. I can't even keep up with the thoughts that are coming in. This is why it's so important to understand that the thoughts that you grab onto, take a look at, hold on to. No one likes me. It always ends this way. I never have anyone around. No one ever sticks around. These are thoughts that will come through, especially if you grab onto them. So if you choose that you don't want to grab onto, cannot control your thoughts, so don't try. You choose what is important, what is aligned with you, what is authentically you, and not just some nattering little voice in the back of your head based on the perceptions that you have because of the trigger that just came across.
Yep.
Breathe, Micah.
Sometimes you just got to get it out. But yes, you have your homework. Don't abandon yourself anymore. And it takes practice. It's a conscious effort, like everything else. You have to really be consciously aware of what you're thinking, what you're doing, who you're choosing to spend your time with, who you're choosing to align yourself with. It's very conscious and intentional work.
Yeah.
So keep it real for you, keep it true to you, and you won't abandon yourself. You will have the ability to fulfill your needs and show others the needs that you choose to have fulfilled by them.
Mm-hmm. And next time you have that thought of, why do I keep doing this for them when they don't do anything for me? That's abandonment.
Yes.
It's not reciprocity. It's abandonment.
Mm-hmm. Right.
With the expectation of a reciprocity and the discouraged feeling.
Right.
That you have to people please and do and do and do and do and do.
And you don't. And if someone abandons you because you're, and you do all of this extra stuff, they were with you because you were doing all this extra stuff.
Ding, ding.
So you're doing all this extra stuff to maintain and make them like you, but you're not even aligned. So they're going to leave anyway, and then you're going to feel abandoned again. But the reality is you're abandoning yourself the entire time, and it was using you and not actually interested in you, the person, because they probably even know you're just doing all that for them because that ain't really who you are.
No.
Be mindful of yourself with yourself and be kind to yourself in regards to where you place yourself in others' worlds. Yes.
But start with yours.
We're at almost at 6:50.
Yep. I was just going to say, we've given them enough to chow down on this week.
And homework.
So do a Google search of attachment styles and just give yourself permission, 15 minutes, to go through and see where you're putting attachments to. Are they to your authenticity, or are they to people pleasing so that you don't have that feeling of abandonment?
Right. Right.
And we will come up with some kind of topic for next week. I do hear a little voice in my head, one of many.
Yes.
That eventually we're going to open the doors a little bit wider for this conversation. And there may be some invites for people to join and ask us live on air their questions, because we will get to a point where, okay, well, we already talked about that topic.
Yes.
So be on the lookout, because in the very near future, Phoenix Talks may be evolving just a little bit.
I think that's fabulous. And I would even recommend that if there's a specific topic that you don't mind sharing on a platform that you need assistance with, we can elaborate on that for you in the conversation.
So a little bit of live one-on-one might be coming up. Who knows how this is going to. We are literally, like I said at the beginning of the podcast and every podcast, this is literally an organic build every single week, and we never know where it's going to go, and it's a beautiful thing just for you. So we will be back next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, with a topic.
I don't know. We're going to find out. I'm sure I'll get something.
Find out. We'll find out, and we will let you know. Until then, be blessed. Be you. Live with abandon, not with abandonment.
Live for yourself with abandon.
Yes. And stop saying I meant to, okay? All right? And we love you. Keep going.
Thank you.
As soon as it lets me end. There we go.
Thank you.